One of the things that always surprises our clients is how much lingo comes along with bankruptcy. And it's kind of a language all of its own. And sometimes we as attorneys can kind of take for granted that you know and understand the language that we're speaking. And I think more often than not, you don't. And that's not a failing on your part. It's mainly because people don't interact with the legal system all that often. And learning the language of bankruptcy can take some time. So one of the things you want to do when you're talking with an attorney about bankruptcy is make sure that you ask them to explain what they mean when they say words that don't quite make sense to you. One thing we often do is we jump right in and talk to you about something called or someone called a trustee. Okay. Oftentimes people think of trustees as being someone who administers, their parents or grandparents or their own trust. And a trustee in bankruptcy is really similar to that because what happens when you file bankruptcy is an estate is created, and that estate consists of everything you own, just like if you made a trust for your children, by way of example. And then there has to be someone to administer that trust. And in a bankruptcy setting, it can't be you. So there are trustees who are appointed by the court and by the United States trustee to administer your case. What the trustee does in different types of cases can be really different, but basically their job is to review your assets, review your ability to pay your creditors, gather information about what you own and who you owe money to, and then take the steps that what we call the bankruptcy code, which is a federal law that governs all bankruptcy cases, requires the trustee to do. So in a Chapter 13, a trustee is someone who, after they've gathered the information, takes all of the money that needs to be paid to creditors and pays the creditors for you. They get that money through your monthly payment. If you were to file a Chapter 7 case instead, the trustee in the Chapter 7 case explores your assets, figures out whether your assets have any value that could be used to pay creditors. And sometimes there's value there for that purpose. Other times there's not. If there is, the trustee's job is to turn any of your property and your assets into money and pay creditors with that money. So as you as you can see through that small discussion of trustees, I just used a whole bunch more words that lots of times people aren't going to understand. If we were in a meeting today, what I would hope is you would ask, well, what do you mean by this? And what do you mean by that? So if we talk about, for example, assets, I don't know that people always understand what's meant by that. That means everything that you own. Um, Otherwise, we could talk about property, but a lot of people that we talk to think of property as just being their home or their real estate, right? But when we say property or we say assets, we also mean bank accounts, your right to potentially receive a tax refund next year, money in your bank account, your car. All of those sorts of things are assets or pieces of property. And so lots of times when we use this language, we don't get all of the responses because we're not so careful about explaining what we need. Be certain that you ask all of the questions that you can so that you really understand the information that's being provided to you. And what we'll do in the next couple of videos is go through a few more of these words so that you have kind of a sense for what people might be looking for when you go meet with an attorney, whether it's the attorney's paralegal or whether it's the attorney, him or herself, who are asking you these questions, we want you to start off with an understanding of what these terms mean so that you can get the advice that makes the most sense for your specific circumstances.